Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to yet another edition of Caliber and Character. I am your host, Volstorm. With me always is the lovely, beautiful, and vocally talented Dictionary Diva. Diva, how we doing?
Doing good. How are you, Volstorm?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, tell me a little bit about your week.
Oh, you have to ask, don't you? So, I've been struggling with a little issue at work, like for a few weeks now. And well, the issue is outside of me. I know that I play a part in it. And so I've been thinking about it, stewing on it and cooking on it for a little while. And sometimes the best times for me to think is when I'm driving or in the shower. And, this song had popped on the radio, and I was like, "Man, that's a really good song. What is it?" So I had Siri pull up who sings it, and it Lakini's Juice?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, by Live. So it's kind of an older song. It's like, "Man, this is a good song."
going back to those. Not to kind of date ourselves, but those late high school, early college years
Yeah,
type music.
yeah, yeah, that's it. That's the timeline. Um, so the song just kept playing in my head again and again and again. I was like, "Man, this is crazy." So it led me back to something a book I'd picked up months and months ago called Existential Kink.
Oh,
And yeah, it's a good book.
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm doing this thought processing. I'm cooking on this problem and kind of simultaneously but separately, that whole Sam Harris issue popped up.
Yeah.
Kind of controversial.
For those of you who may not know, this week Sam Harris had done an interview with a group called Trigonometry. And in that he made some very controversial statements regarding everybody's favorite laptop and all the material that was contained within there and the fact that it was repressed.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. So I've liked Sam Harris for about 3 years. You know, um I liked his meditation practice because his voice is very soothing. I'm a big fan of good voices. And, but I was so interested by him because I knew there was some controversy between him and Jordan Peterson. Like, I'm like, what's the beef between those guys?
yeah, and I love Jordan Peterson.
Love Jordan Peterson. Love him. Love him. And I'm more than willing to entertain two diametrically opposed people of thought. I'm more than willing to try to understand both of them. So, anyway, this stuff with Sam Harris, I was like, whoa, what in the world did he really say? And I had to go listen to the clip. And I was still just as stunned and floored by it.
Yeah, he had made some statements regarding the not only the Hunter Biden's laptop, but the whole fact that he felt like the media was justified in repressing that information during the 2020 elections,
Mhm. Mhm.
which YouTube don't kick us off for that. Jeez. Um, but it was I've listened to some Sam Harris stuff. Sam Harris is he's very logical. He's
Mhm. Mhm.
very matter of fact with that sort of thinking.
I think
Although
of him.
Sam Harris is also he also is an atheist.
Yes, yes.
And Sam Harris, I don't some of the stuff that he says I can logically agree with, but he's got a lot of stuff that I'm just like, dude, you're out in left field. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, in the 3 years that I've entertained Sam Harris, I've consumed his content. I've asked myself, I'm like, how can someone with such a curated pattern of thought, such a cultivated thought process, be so obtuse? How? How can that happen?
Yeah.
And I found his essay on free will and I listened to it and I was like, aha, there it is. He doesn't believe in free will.
Let's go ahead and get into the clip
Yeah.
and see what let's see what everybody in the chat thinks of this. First of all, hi Mitchell, hi Shaney, hi White Rabbit.
Oh,
Glad to have
sweet.
y'all on with us this morning.
I don't have the chat pulled up. I'm gonna have to do that.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip.
I'm not hearing the sound.
All right, guys. I don't know why this is not bringing up the sound.
Yeah. Are you hearing the sound?
I'm hearing the sound fine, but that doesn't mean anything. Here, let's back this up to where I had it. Come on. I may have to find another avenue to be able to do this. Let's see. All right. We'll see if this is any better. If it's not, please let me know.
Nuts. We're a highly professional, skilled group of operators here.
So it's still not coming through?
I'm not hearing it.
You're not hearing it? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well.
Technical problems.
Live radio, folks.
That's right. That's
Hold
right.
on just a moment.
Dang it.
I know it. I know it. Let's see here. There's got to be another way to do this.
Yeah, there has to be. You're going to hear my dog walking back and forth repeatedly. Poor fella.
I know it. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to find another way to do this. So, please elaborate.
Oh, elaborate on the free will. Sure. Let's do this off the cuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have the summary of his, it's the essay Free Will by Sam Harris. And the summary says, a belief in free will touches nearly everything that human beings value. It's difficult to think about law, politics, religion, public policy, intimate relationships, morality, as well as feelings of remorse or personal achievement without first imagining that every person is the true source of his or her thoughts and actions. And yet the facts tell us that free will is an illusion. In this enlightening book, Sam Harris argues that this truth about the human mind does not undermine morality or diminish the importance of social and political freedom, but it can and should change the way we think about some of the most important questions in life. And I had honestly never really put that much thought into the concept of free will. I just knew that it was that God gave us free will. You know, it was kind of just an understanding of mine.
Well, and therein is where he immediately is against free will. If God is given to us by free will, or if God gives us free will, and you don't believe in God, then that kind of eliminates that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I'm still perplexed at how someone with such, like I say, it's a curated pattern of thought. But because I've been interested in him and interested in how he thinks and why he thinks what he does, there had been an interview he did, probably, I'm sure, with Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan loves talking about tripping with any of his guests that will entertain that. And Sam had made a comment about he had gone on he used to use psychedelics all the time when he was younger, and then he had a horribly bad trip one time. And after that point, he never touched it again. And I'm extremely interested in psychedelics and what it can do, like for addiction and mental illness and trauma, especially PTSD for soldiers. And so I love researching it. And in the research, I've found out that there really are no bad trips. Now, you can have a really, really, really bad trip, but the bad trip is rooted in whatever's going on within yourself, typically. And so when Sam Harris said that he had that really bad trip, I was like, "Ooh, what's going on in your mind? What is
Right.
in your mind that you have now closed off completely?" And I kind of feel like maybe that's the root of his confirmation bias about atheism, his bias against free will, is that he has closed himself off completely. Because there's no way anyone could make that statement he made about bodies of children in the basement being okay with him as long as it wasn't Donald Trump.
All right. I'm going to try this
Try
one
one more
more
time.
time. Again, if y'all don't hear any sound, let me know.
Nope, not hearing it.
Still not hearing it?
Still not hearing it.
Dadgummit.
Something's not transcribing. I wonder why.
I suck at this.
Well, it's okay. This is what, episode 4 or 5 for us? I don't know.
Oh, dear Lord.
I don't know, man.
All right. Now I'm going to have to take a
We're
different
newbies. Somebody can
tact.
tell us what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure expert would be more than happy to get on here and tell me, oh, this is why you're doing it wrong. Okay. But you're not here.
Somebody can tell us. It's all good, though. Oh, well. And we may have lost people already. That's fine. That's fine.
Frankly, I wouldn't blame him.
Yeah, well, we're putting this into the collective universe, so
Yeah,
it's
man.
okay,
It's
man.
the collective and stuff.
Yeah, it's the collective. We're putting good thoughts out there, man. But how can someone maintain that? There's this other intellectual. His name is Gadsad, I think I'm probably butchering the name. Obviously, I am not an intellectual. I'm just a layperson. But I think a lot. Anyway, he was taken aback by it. He said that thought pattern of Sam is pathological.
All right. Since I'm not able to pull up the audio because, well, I'm an idiot, I at least found what he said. Jeez. All right. Writer Sam Harris said any left-wing conspiracy to prevent former President Trump's reelection is warranted during an interview released on Wednesday. Harris claimed that Hunter Biden's alleged corruption is incomparable to Trump's, arguing his laptop does not stack up to Trump University. And when that clip started out, I know you guys weren't able to hear it. He starts getting into everything that happened with Trump University, and I don't know all the details. I know that it was pretty much a failed venture. The writer then called any attempt to prevent Trump from re-entering the Oval Office justifiable. His quote, Hunter Biden literally could have had corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, he began. There's nothing. It's Hunter Biden. It's not Joe Biden. Whatever the scope of corruption is, it is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like a firefly to the sun. Really?
And so Trump University, so I looked up Trump University. It was one of those early 2000s kind of, not really a scheme, but oh my gosh, there was a fella, Carlton Sheets. He used to sell information on how to use other people's money to buy houses and create rental properties.
Right, right.
It wasn't much different than that. Now, well, there people...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, there are people who are gullible and will buy something that they shouldn't. But again, that's free will, man. It's free will. You're going to learn a lesson.
We've all seen these advertisements for these seminars where it's like, oh, I can teach you how to flip houses not using your own money. I can teach you how to gain wealth. All you have to do is pay all this money for the seminar. Now, anybody that's got a lick of sense knows, okay, it's it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And perhaps that was the deal with Trump University, was that it was just a load of BS. Oh yeah, we're gonna, if you if you join Trump University, then we're gonna help you get an education where you know how to deal with the real world. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but everybody was doing it back then. I'm not
Everybody
justifying
was
it.
doing
I'm
I'm not
I'm just saying
justifying it either.
th-
Yeah.
this was something that was just kind of common practice. You're telling me that that is worse than all the crap that's on the son of the president's laptop? And we've seen a lot of that stuff come out.
And the big guy gets 10%.
Right.
I'm sure. Yeah, I
And the
bet he does.
and the fact that it's really common knowledge that Biden had, he was on the board of a energy company in Ukraine. He's had
Mhm.
dealings with China, so on and so
Mhm.
forth. And you're telling me something that happened in a small subsector of the US, cuz I had never heard of Trump University. I'd never heard of it until the elections.
I hadn't either.
But you're going to tell me that that is worse than the former vice president's son going out there and doing business dealings that involve his father?
Right.
You're going to tell me that's worse?
Right. And this was something that caught me. So, an individual who believes there is no free will is more than willing to limit freedoms.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I find a lot of holes in Harris's arguments about, because he is very much anti free will.
Yeah.
He believes that there is no such thing as free will, that
It's an
everything is
illusion.
destined. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so let's follow that logic. If you believe there is no free will, then why would you do anything to try to mess with an election?
Right. Right. It's
You know,
all predestined. It's all going to manifest. So why interfere with what's destiny and fate?
right.
Why
It,
manipulate it?
it makes absolutely no sense. If you're going to go to that much trouble to where, the Biden laptop was suppressed during the election. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's nothing. Only to come out years later to find out, yeah, oh yeah, there was a lot on there.
Mhm.
You mean to tell me that somebody that's close to the presidential candidate, that doesn't affect their status as a candidate? I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. You can have friends, you can have acquaintances, you can have family members that do all kinds of messed up stuff. I mean, we've heard stories about Jimmy Carter's brother. We've heard stories about Bill Clinton's brother. It didn't necessarily affect it, but at the same time, the issues with those men weren't affecting global
Mm,
weren't affecting global issues.
true, but you could also make the argument that apples don't fall far from trees. And so if black sheep exist in the family, maybe there's a little bit of corruption, manipulation, poor ethics, questionable morality within that family tree itself.
Well, and I mean, for crying out loud, it's not like he was distanced from Joe.
No. No.
I mean, hell, they just went on vacation. He went with him.
Hey, Dad, you want some rock? It might help you think a little clearer, man.
I mean, come
Take a
on.
bump.
Take a bump. But it's no, I find it so funny because, like I said, I've listened to Sam Harris in the past, and some of his stuff I'd agree with, some of the stuff I don't agree with, because I have different beliefs than he does. But at the same time, to flat out say that, oh, this was a good thing, it should be repressed, and to make the statement, Hunter Biden literally could have had corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
Mm. Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, that's just evil. I'm
It
sorry.
is evil.
That's what's wrong with people. People are afraid to call out things what they are. That's just effing evil.
It is. Just like Mitchell said, it's creepy. It's creepy.
Oh, it's beyond creepy. I mean, these are the type of people that, right, wrong, or indifferent. These are the type of people that come out later and you find out that they do have children in their basement.
What was his connection with? Yeah, I don't know, but it is interesting that someone like Harris does have the degree of influence he does on people. If he came into my sphere of knowledge, and I listened to him, but I also recognize that he had a deep-seated confirmation bias that he wants to and chooses to maintain. He wants to keep that bias.
Right. Right. You can't claim to be this stoic intellectual, but then I mean, and this is probably, of all the stuff that he's done, this is probably the first time where I've really seen a hardcore true bias. I mean, you're just
Yeah.
that the left always has a way of showing who they really are,
Yep.
especially when they think that they're safe. That's when all this stuff comes out. It's, well, they're already in power. They've already got a majority. They've already, everything's safe. That we're the ones in charge of government. We're the ones in charge of society. So yeah, we can kind of let you know what's going on a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah. Hmm. 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 Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does make you wonder, but it's kind of to get back to his total. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. For his total
Oblivion.
lack of regard for free will.
Yes.
It's trying to think.
I know. Sometimes words are hard.
Words are hard.
Words are hard.
It's Sunday morning coming down, folks.
Maybe you need a little bump
anybody,
too.
For anybody listening to the podcast, it's Sunday morning coming down around here.
Need a little bump.
Well, it's how can you question free will, but then at the same time
fully exercise it.
Right.
He's fully exercising it. It's like, do you not see the contradiction there? It's like right there. I'm not a deep intellectual, and I'm sure anyone could say, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's not a professor of whatever. No, I don't think you have to be in this situation.
For crying out loud, I know tons of people with pieces of paper behind their name that are as dumb as all get out. And I know people who have, they've graduated high school and maybe they've gone to a trade school. They're some of the most intelligent people I've ever interacted with.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like Dolly Parton had said once in that interview with Barbara Walters, she's like, well, the folks where I come from may not be well educated, but they have what's called good horse sense. And that's what it is. Good horse sense, common sense.
I think the best quote I ever saw was from Albert Einstein, and said something about if you tell a fish to climb a tree, you would think he's stupid too.
Yeah.
It's something along those lines. I'm sure I'm way misquoting it, but
it's okay. Okay.
That was kind of the idea behind it. It's like, your idea of stupid depends on your perspective.
It does. Completely.
And, like I said, Sam is very intellectual. He's a very deep thinker, but with all these intellectuals who think they're, of course, intellectually and morally superior to everyone.
Good word. Superiority. Yep.
They have a tendency to say, well, we can excuse this evil because it serves such a greater good.
th-
And I truly believe
no.
that, and I truly believe that's what, and I've seen it on both sides. I truly believe that that's what a lot of politicians think, is that, well, we can allow this because in the end it serves a greater good. Well, no,
No.
stripping away people's free will and stripping away people's rights is never for the greater good.
No. And that intellectuals centuries before us realized the benefit of what the idea of being able to exercise free will within a society can do. And that's what America has been. America has been the bedrock of innovation and creativity and growth because of the ability to exercise free will.
And the people that don't believe in free will, like a Sam Harris, do they not realize they're in the wrong country? They're in the wrong country. They're in the wrong type of culture, because America is one of the few places on the planet to where what you are born as does not determine where you will be.
Beautiful point.
You can grow up. I mean, we hear stories all the time about how people grew up poor and they made the determination that this is not the life I want to live, and they build a business and they become ultra successful because they decided this is not what I want to be. At the
Hmm.
same time, we've also seen countless stories of these people that are born on third base, that their lives just go completely to crap
Yep.
because they thought that, well, I have all these advantages. I mean, they have real privilege, and they squander it all away.
Yeah, yeah. I liked your analogy where you said, someone can hit a grand slam.
Yeah, only in America can you start out at home plate, hit a grand slam. Not only do you come home, but you bring others home too.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that analogy because
And
that's what you do. When you succeed, you do bring others with you.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's now, let's compare that to other cultures in a communist culture. And I in my mind, I keep thinking of India and the caste system.
Mhm.
What you're born into is what you are for the rest of your life. If you're born into a higher born
Mhm. A higher
caste, then
caste,
that's
yeah.
what you're going to be. If you're born poor and in a poor caste, that's what you're going to be.
The untouchables. Yeah.
Right.
Mother Teresa used to go to Calcutta and work with those people because no one else would work with them. And I don't know the Hindu religion that well. I only know pieces. Um, but some believe that you're born into that caste system um, to serve your being in later experiences in life. Like they believe in oh my gosh, reincarnation. Why would the words are dang hard this morning?
I gotta pull this up. Hold on.
Okay.
White Rabbit, Dolly versus Hunter, where you came from and where you ended up. It's
Yes.
perfect. It's
Perfect.
perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, and you even, you hear people talk about socialism, you hear people talk about communism.
Mhm.
In communism, if you're not a part of the party, if you're not a part of the upper end, you're on the lower end. You're
Mhm.
stuck.
Very
There's no
stuck.
way out, and there's so much control from the higher end that the you know the rest, they're what they would probably consider their middle and lower classes. There's no way out unless you leave the country. Why do you think so many people fled from Castro's Cuba and came to America? Because they knew they were stuck. They knew they were oppressed, actually oppressed. Because in those countries, you can't work hard and fight your way out of it like you
Yeah.
can in America.
And I think it's kind of ironic what happened to the WNBA basketball player because she had been commenting about how oppressive America is, and then, oops, she brought a little bit of the ganja with her to Russia, and Mother Russia said, "No, no, you
Yeah,
cannot do that."
that's what I find so funny. I like. Do I think Russia went overboard? Yes, absolutely, I do. But at the same time, for somebody who said that, I don't like America. America is oppressive. I'm not going to stand for the flag.
Mm.
I'm not even going to be out there for the national anthem. And then lo and behold,
Uh-oh.
she thinks just like in America, well, I can do this and it's not going to be that big of a deal if I get caught. Well, you find out in other countries that's not the case.
Yeah, and okay, so that wasn't her first time going to Russia.
No.
She's very familiar with the customs and maybe not necessarily all the laws and the natural consequences of stupid decisions, but you know, there probably was enough knowledge to know, no, you cannot bring cartridges of marijuana to Russia. You just can't. No matter what your excuse is, it's against the law.
Right.
It's
Right.
just against the law. And
And
as a country, as a sovereign country, they have the right to make and enforce their own laws.
right. I don't know if she thought, she had diplomatic immunity because she was over there playing with her basketball team or what it was, but bottom line is she got caught and she got 9 years.
She exercised her free will and then manifested the consequences.
See, there you go. Another example of free will.
It's all around us, man.
No, I could do this and I know the outcome is going to be I'm going to be just fine. I'm not going to get in any trouble for this. Oops.
Yeah. Oops.
Oops.
You done messed up.
You done messed up. But no, it's I find it arrogant
Yes.
for look, you can believe whatever you want to. You can believe in whatever religion, whatever God, whatever. But to believe in some of these ideals that you have, that God did not grant free will, I have a problem with it.
I
I
agree
just
with that.
I can't wrap my mind around it.
I can't either. And maybe I've got my own confirmation bias. I don't know. I'm willing to entertain that, at least. But you're right. Arrogance and superiority, definitely. For a human to believe that there is no God, I am my own God. Woo!
That's a pretty heavy burden.
Yeah, it
That's a
is.
pretty heavy burden.
I mean, it does extremely epitomize, your own accountability for sure. Then you're not victim to anything except your own choices. But dang.
Right. And you what's something a lot of people says, whenever a tragedy strikes, they say, "Well, how can God let this happen?" Well, if you don't believe in free will, then yes, you are believing that, God has fated this, God has wanted this to happen. And
Maybe.
and at the same time, I also believe that God tests us.
Yeah. Yeah, we've touched on that before in one of our episodes.
Right. God
With
tests us
Denzel.
with Denzel.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is perfect, Shani. If you believe that you are your own God, aren't you exercising free will? Absolutely.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And only here in America can you have the right to do that.
Yeah. Only in America can you have the right to do that. Now, what you do within your own mind is, but that, mind control, trying to control other people's thoughts. That's a whole thing that's happening too. where you have to, and it's that 1984 segue, where you're not allowed to have your own thoughts, and they do everything that they can to control your thoughts.
Yeah, and even going back to, well, what you're thinking is wrong, and we're going to go back and change history to show that what you that what you're thinking is wrong, that what we're saying is right.
Yeah, that you've interpreted this wrong. History interpreted this wrong. Here's how it should have been interpreted. No, history is a reflection of time, really. And it's also a reflection of how things were perceived at that time.
Have we gotten to the point to where it's like there are factions of people that believe that everybody in the country that doesn't think their way are basically children, and we need to guide them and teach them and not allow them to exercise free will because they're just wrong. Their thinking is just completely wrong. It's completely prejudiced, biased, whatever, however you want to put it. And that this is why we constantly beat you over the head with these ideals.
Yeah, and that's what the media I feel like we're in a great big petri dish of thought experiment right now. And most people are either intuitively or knowingly making the decision to no longer get their news, no longer get their information, and no longer get how things are interpreted from mainstream media. I mean, you're seeing this flux of people going to YouTube and Twitter and things like that. And now that there's this flux, what's happening? There's this attempt to control that too.
Right. And it gets to the point to where you I mean, I had even stopped watching the local news here because I didn't want to have to sit there and constantly disseminate what was fact and what was opinion.
Yeah.
And I absolutely will not listen to network news.
I do if I want to laugh.
Right,
I'm
right. If I
like,
want to
good
laugh.
God, can they not see the I hope people can see the bias of what they spew because it is so manufactured, so manipulated.
It really is. And I probably, because I grew up, um, what was the term you used? I grew up a Rush baby,
Oh,
Rush
Rush baby.
Limbaugh.
Yes.
I started listening to Rush Limbaugh probably back in the early 90s. And it was so interesting to have somebody have a take where it's like, this is what they're telling you. Here's what's going on. And what that really did for me, it didn't necessarily make me lean toward his point of view, but it made me think for myself. And how is
Right.
that not free will?
Right. Right. And I guess I grew up an X-Files baby because I question everything. I question everything. Even with Rush, I could see his bias.
Right,
I
right.
could see it, and it was clear to me, but I appreciated being able to look at and tease out the bias from the facts. I like that. But right now what's being one thing, we are not being taught how to do critical thought.
Right.
It is a process. To learn how to think logically is something that does have to be taught because the crocodile brain doesn't want that. The crocodile brain wants what feels good, what tastes good, what does good. That's what it wants. And so you have to teach the rational mind how to become rational because we really do have two brains operating simultaneously.
But if you don't believe in free will, then it should be, well, you should just believe whatever's put out
You should
there.
just believe what's
Correct?
being told to you. Just believe. Yeah.
It's because of my background with politics and just kind of along the lines of what I do now. I'm a skeptic.
Oh gosh,
I
yes.
question everything.
You're an X-Files baby too.
I wasn't. I didn't know it.
Oh, and I think I watched too much Twin Peaks too because That show was just weird. I was like, "What the heck is going on what?" And then they
Yeah,
jumped the shark, and I was like, "Nah, I'm done."
used to I believe that what they taught in schools was, and my parents were, especially my dad, was notorious for this. Used to what they taught in schools was, okay, you need to figure this out for yourself. You need to look at everything. You need to do some critical thinking, look at the
Mhm.
facts as you see it, and then think for yourself. That's something my dad did that always drove me nuts.
Well,
Is I would ask him about something and he'd go, "Well, what do you think?" And I'm sitting there. Of course, as a child, you're thinking to yourself, "No, just give me the answer."
no, just give me the answer. It's easier if you just tell
Right?
me.
Just tell me what you want.
Do you remember the tedium of having to go through geometry proofs? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Euclidean thought.
I
Yeah.
got a B in geometry, so I was happy.
I got well, I won't say what I got in geometry, but anyway, it was good it was a good grade. Um, unlike my anatomy class, but hey, it's okay. Um, but I remember the tedium of it, but I also remember I'm like, "Man, I really like this. I like going through if this means this." Well, first, you have to understand that one principle is a fact. It is an undisputable fact. And then from that fact, you can go through a logical process to prove if this is this, then this is this. I
Right.
loved that. I've always loved that. And I don't think that's taught anymore. I really don't think that they have to do geometry proofs in school anymore. But that's one of the most basic fundamentals of rational thought.
I want to pull up this other comment of Shane. He's kind of going along the lines of what we're talking about. Said, "That's me exactly, and I've introduced the concept of YouTube creators versus MSM to my 82-year-old father. He's a thinker, and boy, oh boy, his view now. I applaud his openness to listen." Well,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, it's getting to the point to where you have to find your own. Now, here's the trick. There's kind of a dichotomy here. On the one hand, you're trying to find out what the facts really are without any type of bias.
Right.
However, you can fall into the rabbit hole of creating your own echo chamber.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
there's stuff that I don't agree with that I will listen to and consider.
Yeah.
I try to be somewhat open unless it's just blatant, which is what it seems like more and more these days.
Mhm.
Um, but finding other sources of information is always a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about this too. Most people don't have enough time in their day to think. It's easier to be spoon-fed what to think.
Well,
Because to
our time is so occupied with so much stuff anyway. And that's what I believe. That's what a lot of these outlets take advantage of.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. And I think that they know there's been enough data collected on this human experiment, to know that you can load someone's feed up with what you want them to watch. You can monitor their spending habits to such an extent that you can put a product in front of them and know that that crocodile brain is gonna say, I do need that. Oh, I'd really like that. Ooh, that's sparkly."
Well, that's the whole thing behind advertising is we're going to find something that will appeal to you and we're going to make you want it. That's why you see, you kind of watch the evolution of advertising from the 60s until now. The news
Mhm.
media does the same thing.
Yeah.
We have to do whatever we can to get eyeballs on screens.
Yeah, to get that attention. So you think back into the, 1700s, there was no YouTube, and there was hardly any printed information available to humans, really. So
So
what
so
did
you're telling me bears were out in the woods reading the newspaper?
bears were out in the woods? Probably, yeah, I bet they had just as much access to the newspaper. Vicious pandas. I think you should put hashtag vicious pandas.
Hashtag vicious.
But what did you have time to do during the day? You had time to work, and when you're doing a laborious job that really takes no thought, what are you doing? You're in your own head and you're thinking about things.
Right.
Everyone knows that. You're mowing the yard. What are you doing?
Well,
You're
exactly.
thinking.
This is something Guava Ball and I talked about off the air the other night, which was what time do you have to be able to solve the world's problems and do the most thinking when you're mowing the yard?
Yeah, when you're mowing the yard. Exactly.
And
And
even then, it depending on the time of day, I've got some sort of sports radio, or I've got a if the expert's on, I'll put him on.
oh yeah, of
And I'm
course.
only saying that because you're in the chat, by the way.
I know. I'm
Uh,
so happy he's in the chat.
but yeah, that's the only time that I'll go through a million different things in a
Yeah.
million different scenarios while I'm just doing a menial labor task.
Yeah. That's what your mind is geared for. And advertisers, pharmaceutical companies, media producers, they know that you have time and they're going to try to occupy it. They're going to try to occupy space.
Right. And if you think about it, think about how commercials have changed over the years, how you've gotten into more and more of the pharmaceutical stuff.
Mm,
It's because they're going by the size of the population.
yeah, the demographic.
What demographic it
Mm-hmm.
is. When we were growing up as kids, you saw a lot of advertisements for toys and all kinds of stuff because these people were the baby boomer generation were parents.
Yeah.
So they, it's like, okay, you need this for your kids, you need to be able to do this. And then as we got older, we started seeing more and more and more of the medical, the pharmaceutical.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the reverse mortgages going on. It's because
Tom
they're
Selleck.
right.
How dare you sell
Tom
out,
Selleck. Shout out to White Rabbit. Um, it's because they are appealing to the demographic that's actually going to invest in this.
Yeah, the largest consumer group. And I wonder though if the Generation X has been one of the most difficult markets to target because you don't really know what they're buying, what they're doing.
Right.
They grew up in the question everything. Rage Against the Machine. I remember their music and they're all about throwing it up to the man, but now they're just a cog in the wheel now.
They are the machine now.
They are.
They're not raging anymore. They're a part of the
No,
machine.
they're part of the machine. They're not raging against anything.
But it really is because, as Generation X, born in a time of disco, growing up during the time of the 80s where it was, parties and drugs and everything, and then starting to become adults during the grunge phase. I link everything to music.
Mhm.
And then you get to the 2000s and it's like what's going on?
What happened? It's almost like when the 2000s hit, you could tell that's when Gen X was like, okay, I got to get to work now, man. I got to get to work. I don't have time to think about this stuff. And so they just kind of dropped out as a force.
Right.
It's almost like they're the silent generation now.
Yeah, because it's funny how many people, I look in my industry and I see people that have been in the business for decades, and then there's hardly anybody of my generation in it. And then there's some of the younger generation, but it's kind of a flux just with the way that the workforce is right now.
Yeah.
But it's so funny how you went from these people who did work and were in it, you had a career, you literally had a career, to people just kind of, everything shifting a little bit, as far as our generation. It's like, well, I'll do this for a little while, then I'll do this for a little while.
I'm a perfect example of that.
So we're a generation that won't even work.
Oh, we could talk about the labor force. And we kind of did a little bit in one of our episodes about just the knowledge gaps that are existing right now because people are like, I'm done with this. I'm done. Either they're tapping out of the rat race and trying to start their own business, which I think would be extremely difficult right now, but very opportunistic at the same time from a market sense.
Right.
There's tons of opportunities that are opening up right now because there are large corporations that are not able to pivot because they're too big. And
Right.
that's going to open up the ocean for other people, other businesses to find markets. But that's a whole other topic.
Well, I was just sitting here thinking about how, used to you go into a store and you kind of knew what you wanted, and there was like a limited selection.
Hmm.
And then now there's so many choices, there's so many selections that it gets overwhelming. So
Hmm.
you have to kind of pivot to whatever's screaming the loudest, whatever brand is being shown to you the most.
Yeah.
And it was so much easier.
It was so much easier when there were trusted brands.
Right, right,
It was, because then you were spoon fed what to think and what to buy. And now, um, those people who are practiced and skilled in constructive or critical thinking, they're like, I don't know about this product. I used to be able to trust such and such product, but then it bought this company and they're in bed with Monsanto and oh, that's Bayer? What? That pharmaceutical company is in bed with Monsanto? How is all of this connected? And so you're
right.
like, wait a second, maybe I want to go with a company that has no connection, is truly a startup, but they have quality products that fit the need of what I want.
When you think about because I've done a little research on this, you think about all the off-brand TVs that are out there, and then you start looking into it and come to find out really what they are is just the products from Sony that didn't pass their QA.
Mm.
It will all go back to one company. If you favor one brand or the other, you're like, oh.
Oh, this sounds like an Alex Jones conversation. Oh, geez. Where is Alex? We haven't heard from him lately. Uh,
he's been in his bunker ever since the court case.
I miss his appearances on the experts FNLs. I really
Well,
miss that.
we'll have to see if he'll pop up on the next FNL.
I see what Mitchell said. He's like, I see the younger generation wanting to pay but don't want to work. It's crazy. And employers are catering to it. Oh my gosh, that goes full circle back to the thing that I've been cooking on for weeks now regarding how to handle a problem. Um, yeah, completely 100% correct.
Yeah, used to. I know when I got into the labor force, it was like you had a lot of people that thought, well, if I go into this, then I'm going to get top money. No, you haven't paid your dues,
Yeah.
and now you see a whole generation of people who not only want top pay, but they're like, well, I shouldn't have to do that. I should just get, because I have all this credentialing behind me, I should just go ahead and get top pay for it.
I should just get top pay. I have been in this position. So that means I equate myself to being superior than someone else. Like, you may have been in that position, but did you do the damn work?
Exactly. It's like, yeah, you've got all this education, but you have no experience, so it doesn't. It's look at any. You go to school to be a nurse, you go to school to be a lawyer, you go to school to be a
Mm.
doctor, and then you get in the real world and find out a lot of that's bullshit.
A lot of it's bull. A lot of it is academic bull. I told somebody recently, I said, yeah, you went to college, you've got some student loan debt. I said, but you were you were part of this grand thing in which you're sold a bill of goods with the expectation and anticipation that just going through those motions is going to get you somewhere.
Right,
No, fundamentally, you still have to work
right.
and work well.
Mitchell's echoing your thoughts.
Do the damn
Do the
work.
damn work. That's right. That's right.
And for profitability, do the damn work well and efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You can't just go through the motions.
well,
It
I'm here.
I'm
Pay me.
here. Pay me. No. Do your damn job and do it well. Oh, especially in organizations that are highly competitive, the goal is to make money. And that may sound callous, heartless, cruel, capitalistic, whatever. But right now in this world, that's what makes things run is money. And everyone is manipulating and vying for the opportunity to make money.
Well,
And
I think when a lot of people talk about how, oh, that's evil, your goal shouldn't be, able to make money. They're thinking about these giant, large corporations that are, controlling things behind the scenes and with politics, which does happen. But what they're not thinking about are these middle level companies and these small businesses that they're not out there doing it for free.
no, they're
They're
not
trying
doing
to
it for
make
free.
money.
They are. So it makes me think of going back to another panda reference. There must be some synchronicity about pandas right now. Kung Fu Panda, he says, I'm going to live off of dew and universe juice. No,
No,
no one lives off of dew and universe juice. It
that's
just
not how
doesn't happen.
business operates.
No, and that's not how you eat. You know? These machines, these human bodies are created to eat and consume food. And the way you eat and consume food is you work for it.
Right.
One way or another, you work for it.
And that's, and I guess to kind of circle back.
Circle back.
I think that kind of ties into how God, I'm losing my train of thought.
It's okay. Words are hard still.
Words are hard. Math is harder. It's I think the reason that people want just stuff spoon fed to them is they don't want to work for it. They don't teach critical thinking, so they don't think they have to do the damn work because it's all being spoon fed to them. God,
Yeah.
words are hard.
And Shani, little secret, I am Gen X. Definitely 100% Gen X.
Yeah.
I proudly admit it now. I've been keeping it kind of on the DL, but yeah, I'm Gen X.
Hey, I'm Gen X and proud.
Yeah. Well, it makes you wonder, like, what has happened to this huge force of people? That generation is quiet.
Well, if you think about it, how you work is how you're trained.
Yeah.
If you are trained to be constantly spoon fed, if you are trained to someone always giving you the answer, if you've been trained in that manner, you don't know you're supposed to work hard.
Huh.
You don't know it.
Yeah.
It's like if you raise a child to be spoiled, then they're going to be entitled their entire lives.
Yes. Yes. It's true. Well, I wonder, like, my parents were the silent generation. Like, they fell into that category. Your parents were the boomer generation.
Right.
And I have a lot of that silent generation, Great Depression era mentality of suck it up and make do. And that came from my parents. Suck it up and make do. And unfortunately hoard stuff, sadly.
So you're saying your parents were hoarders?
They held on to stuff with the thought that I'll use it in the future.
Hey, that's just redneck mentality, baby.
I think that's part of that too.
I can use that later. I know I can.
Use that. No, like, no, if it's just sitting there and not getting used, let's get rid of it. I'm trying to embrace that. Does it bring you joy? I can never remember that lady's name.
Yeah, it's some sort of
Marie.
Japanese or Chinese
I think she's
mentality.
Japanese.
Yeah,
Uh,
Japanese.
Somebody will remember her. But does it bring you joy? I'm looking at stacks of stuff that I'm like, none of this stuff brings me joy. I've got to get it out of my house.
Right.
Got to get it out of my house. But then I think of the glut of crap that's over there at Goodwill and Carm and all the other thrift store places, which does do good. So I have to remember that maybe my donation brings about some good to the greater collective.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I can let these things go.
I can let it go.
I can let it go. I can let it go.
But yeah, you grew up with parents who constantly had the mentality of you just work. For
Sort of.
Yeah. My parents were that way, but both of my parents worked all my life. My dad worked, my mom worked. They constantly. So I thought, okay, well, you have to work. You have to go to work.
Yeah.
And they kind of pushed that into me. It's like, as soon as I was 15, 16, it's like, okay, you need to get a job, you need to go to work. You need to start paying for stuff. And
Yeah.
if I hadn't have had that, if they hadn't have said, you need to go get a job, I don't care what you do, but you've got to go get a job. You're going to start being responsible for these things. If I hadn't had that, I would have been a tremendous failure at life.
Yep. Or it would have been a real struggle. You wouldn't have necessarily been a failure. It would have been a real constant struggle.
Right.
More of a struggle than what you had anticipated, I'm sure. Like my folks did not quite follow that mentality, but they did always believe that you needed to theirs was learning. You
Right.
always needed to keep learning. And it didn't mean you had to have a stable career. Sadly, I wish kind of that they had instilled a little bit more of that in me, and I would probably use less time trying to find out what I enjoy and what's interesting and learning from it.
Right.
And have a little bit more stability with my work path. But
You're just on a journey, man.
I'm on a journey, man. Yeah. That's why I want to go to Peru, man. I think it'll be cool. As long as I didn't get kidnapped.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
But I don't think it would be like kidnapped for sex trafficking or anything. So I think I'm safe for that. Now that I've said my generation.
You think they'd just make you part of the workforce?
Yeah, maybe. Or they'd make me a madam. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be like Miss Kitty. Get to work, ladies. Your throughput's too long. Come on, you got to get to work. You need that turnaround quicker.
Oh my gosh. Well, I got to read this from Mitchell. My parents would always tell us kids, don't ever go to jail or the hospital. No one's coming to get you. We don't have the money. It worked. I have no record at all. Hey,
natural consequences.
I'm telling you, would you have the mentality of nobody's coming to get you? You have you look at things a completely different way.
That's totally true. I learned that lesson the hard way once. I was like, oh, damn.
Oh, you got to tell that story.
Oh, about daddy?
Yeah.
About my daddy?
Yeah.
So here I am, young, carefree, 18-ish. I don't know. It was a beautiful day. I had a beautiful day. Driving down this country road. There was a summer shower that had happened. And I was like, man, this is just a beautiful day. Look how beautiful it is. I was going about 5 miles maybe over the speed limit. Nothing out of the ordinary for this road. I've driven it 100 times. Somehow, I must have hit a wet patch and I spun out, hit a guardrail, and the front bumper of my car was ripped off on one side. It was drivable otherwise.
Damn, you hit hard.
I apparently did. It was a very freak occurrence, though, because I really wasn't, like, the speed limit was 45 and I was going maybe 50.
Yeah.
So it wasn't crazy. And then the wrecker or the cop shows up and I'm like, well, this lady had called my dad and he should be here anytime because it was literally 5 minutes from the house, just like the statistics say. Uh, and so we're waiting and waiting. The wrecker shows up. I'm like, no, I don't think I'll need a wrecker. My dad will show up with a tool and I'll be fine. It'll be fine. Dad didn't show up. He leaves me there. And I was so mad. I was livid because I had that entitled kid mentality. He needs to come and support his daughter. How dare he not?
Right.
Anyway, the wrecker takes the car. I go back home and I'm so mad at my dad. Like, stupidly, now that I think about it. He taught me a very, very valuable lesson that day. Because when you're a kid, you don't realize that you're not going to have your parents forever.
Right.
You're not going to have someone there to fix your mistakes. You're going to be independent. And after my rage, in which I literally ripped the bumper off myself so I could drive the car. Once I got home,
Dictionary
I-
Diva goes wild.
yeah. Well, I'm a redhead for a reason. And I had to really, really process that because I felt betrayed. I felt absolute sense of betrayal. Like, how could my dad do that to me? And now looking back, I'm like, I'm glad it was that lesson and not something more severe in which he had left me hanging. Or just that I had that lesson, which was really nothing. You know, all I had to do was use my own money because he made me use my own money to get that car fixed.
Right. Right.
That one lesson taught me so many other valuable ones. Like, you don't have your parents forever. You have to fix your own mistakes. You have to pay for your actions. You have to be accountable for even things that are not really your fault. You have to recognize the part that you play in it. And I'm so grateful to my dad for that. Took a while, but you know.
Yeah. I had
so grateful.
I got to the point to where I don't know if it was what my parents taught me or if it was just kind of something ingrained into me, but I was like, you know, if I'm out on my own and something happens, I'm the one that's got to fix it.
Yep.
I'm the one that's got to take care of it. I can't depend on, you know, I don't know if I'll be able to get a hold of my mom or dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to, you know, so I took measures into my own hands. You know, I got, whenever something would happen with the car, you know, I paid for an annual AAA membership to be able to get the free towing.
Yeah.
Because the cars that I had growing up, they weren't nice. They always needed some kind of work, which is how I learned how to work on my own stuff.
Yeah, that's a rite of passage too. I believe
Yeah.
that's a rite of passage that so many people are missing now. Know what? Not many people are gifted a piece of crap, a POS,
Right.
to drive around and learn about all of those little things that happen.
Yeah.
So that you learn to prevent those little things in the future.
Right. And that's, unfortunately, I learned things the hard way, but I do learn it. So I'm able to, okay, this is going on with the car. Okay, this is what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
This is what needs to be fixed. Either I can fix it or I can take it to somebody else to get it fixed. But you've got to be able to have that mindset. You got to have that determination that no one's coming for you.
No one's coming for you. And will you stroke my ego and put up Mitchell's comment where he says I'm so smart?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love Mitchell.
I love Mitchell. When we do our Christmas thing that happens on FNL, we'll have to invite him down.
Oh gosh, I've got to put this up too. Hold on. See, expert Shaney had a Camaro. I tried to do that with the muffler that fell off, but still attached to my Camaro. Luckily, a nice man driving by saw what was about to happen and removed it and put it back. I drove home with my muffler.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
When I was that age too, for some reason I kept getting flat tires all the time. I have no idea. I must have been running over something in my driveway. I don't know. But it was crazy. It was crazy. So I became expert in changing flat tires too.
Expert can't even do that. I did. We were talking about Nobody's Coming for You. Hold on. No, that's not the one I was looking for. Here we go. Bella Maddie's mama. I told my ex that when he was acting a fool. Nobody's coming for you.
Nobody's coming for you. Nobody's coming for you.
To which Shady said, yeah, we've all said that to our ex.
Yeah. Nobody's coming for you.
Nobody's coming to help you.
Well, and when you tell them nobody's going to find your body, that kind of puts another spin on it. Nobody's going to find your body.
I can make you disappear and nobody will find you.
Nobody will find you. I got friends that are pig farmers. Just saying.
Hey, I make true on that promise. I say, I know people for a 6-pack that can make you disappear. Just saying.
Volstorm, it looks like real life is starting to hit my inbox.
Yeah, we've gone a lot longer than I thought we would.
I know. I know. This is a good one though. Talking about free will and natural consequences, I think is something that everyone wants to talk about, but they don't get an opportunity to. And when you have intellectual elites like Sam Harris who make the most absurd comments, you have to take a moment just to think about it. Like, you really do.
Absolutely.
Because those are the people that are shaping what is being given to us.
Right. And people are only going to be as smart as the mentors they look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And when they start looking up to people like him, like the, other people in the media who talk about basically that you need to be taken care of, you need to be spoon-fed, then you're not going to think for yourself.
Who's the guy from CNN that got fired? What was that dude's
Brian
name?
Stelter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know there's going to be a party about that. I just know there is.
I know. I think it's funny. Exactly. Natural consequences.
Sorry, brother. Well, thank you to everybody that tuned in, to Mitchell, White Rabbit, Bella Maddie's mama, Shani, expert jumped in here for a little while. And I know some
Sully was in.
Sully, yes. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're a new listener to the channel or if you're not subscribed yet. And we will see you guys next time.
Next time.
Thanks.
Bye.